So I just opened up a package from a subscriber, and it was an A-OK. And inside of this box was one of the more touching letters that I've actually received from anyone on this channel. And this is not to say that the other letters weren't great. It's simply to say that this one was really awesome. If you want to know what I'm talking about, stay tuned for the video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to spend a little bit of time looking at a stack of comics off to my side. While I was traveling recently, several packages arrived that were a combination of AOKs and purchases, and I decided to roll it all together into one comprehensive video that would allow me to catch up, but also give you guys just a little bit of variety as well. So we're gonna spend some time kind of going through this stuff. I've already pretty much unboxed everything, so this should go relatively quick. At least I think that it will. But I want to start off with a letter and an AOK that actually arrived from Mark, and I actually haven't looked at the book just yet. I read the letter, and the letter was touching. It's a two-sided letter from Mark, so it's rather long, but I honestly enjoy reading every single part of it. And he talks about how he and I have spoken a few times on the channel, probably in the comment section, because I read just about every comment that people leave. And he also highlighted some things that allowed me to remember what we spoke about. He says, we've spoken a few times on YouTube. One time we discussed Jim Steranko. He says that Jim comes to a local comic shop near Mark one time a year, signs autographs, talks to fans, shares all of these fantastic stories. And in the letter, he shares several different, I think, really cool anecdotal stories that he has heard from Steranko, which I think is really cool. And in one particular part, he says, Steranko has mentioned how Stan would tell him to draw like Kirby and Ditko. And Steranko says that Kirby and Ditko are the greats, but there is only one Steranko. And he goes on to make a couple of other comments here. And he says, there's a book that he was able to snag for me. And he says, when Steranko autographed this book that I'm about to show you in just a moment that I haven't even seen, he told Steranko that it was for his pal Regie with 1G. And Steranko replied, tell Regie with 1G to come next year and get his own book signed. And of course, Steranko does it with a smile and with a laugh and all that kind of stuff. I already know what the book is because of the clues that are contained in the letter, but the letter is really fantastic. It really is. And I've said this many, many times that I honestly do have some of the best subscribers around. And I'm not just saying that. It is honestly how I feel, because people take the time to send me letters like that and to do things like what I'm about to show you. And I already know what's in here, not because I've looked, but I know what's in here because, again, the clues that were given. And hopefully I can get this thing out safely. Again, this is just one of those things that kind of touches you a little bit. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So it is, I can't even get the other side off. Bear with me here, people. Bear with me. Should have done this beforehand. Here is Nick Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 4. And I have wanted this book for a very long time. Let me tell you, here it is right here. And I think that says Regie, and it's signed by Steranko. That is a cool book. It really is. And I've looked at this book so many times. I've had it in my sights, and I've never quite been able to pull the trigger. But this is awesome. This right here is awesome. And I am very, very thankful. There's actually a flyer in here out of PA, flyer in here for the comic shop and for the show. And this is awesome. So Mark, I want to give you my sincere appreciation, my friend. This is awesome. This is awesome because of the anecdotal stories behind it, the fact that he put my name on it, and the fact that it's a comic that I've always wanted. So definitely appreciate that. That is pretty cool. With that, let's take a look at another AOK. And this one is a pretty cool one. And it's cool for lots of different reasons. First, it's cool because it's an Amazing Spider-Man book. And it is specifically Amazing Spider-Man number 10 featuring the Black Cat. But you may actually notice something a little different about this. This comic actually came from Milan. My buddy Zach from Jacksonville, Florida sent this to me. He says he went through a long box and found one of the books that he picked up from Milan earlier this year. He thought that I would enjoy it. He goes on to say he thanks me. He thanks Comic Tom for being a big part of his daily, weekly routine and also inspiration. This is awesome. And for whatever reason, like, I think these foreign language books are really cool. And especially when they're coming from people that have visited these places, I think that it's really cool. And so Zach, my friend, I definitely appreciate this for several different reasons. So thank you for that. And he wrote a nice little note on the backside. So you guys know I wasn't making that stuff up. It's actually written there. So Zach, shout out to you, brother. A while ago, you guys may have remembered that I had an issue with a virtual retailer who sent me a comic that was somewhat damaged. And I actually messaged them and said, hey, is this like the standard of, what you guys put out? Because like I want to be super clear, and I want to ask the question. And the person acknowledged that, yes, defects happen on new books all the time, something that I completely acknowledge. But they said that the book looked to be a little more damaged than normal. And they actually volunteered to send me out a replacement copy, which I think was really cool. It took them about 3 weeks to respond to the initial message. Once they responded and said, hey, send us a message and we'll send you a replacement book. 2 weeks go by, still didn't hear from them. Had to send them a couple of more messages. And finally the book arrives, and they went overboard with this one. They actually put it in some bubble wrap inside of a Gemini shipper, inside of a top loader. They took some extra precautions, but I do appreciate it because this copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 25 featuring the Kindred actually looks a whole lot better than the one that they sent me. And yes, there are still some bindery tears down here at the bottom, but this book is in so much better shape than the first copy they sent me. So I want to definitely thank them. I'm not citing their name because it wasn't like the best transaction. I don't want to ruin their reputation because they made it right. It just took a little bit of work, but I don't want to attach their name to it because I think that might be, not the right thing to do. So definitely appreciate them making that up to me. So a buddy of mine sent this next thing over to me, and I think he sent it to basically try to get me to spend a bunch of money. I really do think that that's what he was trying to do. He wants me to jump into those deep waters of statues because I have been resistant to those waters. And here we go. He sent this over. It is a hardbound copy of Sideshow Collectibles volume number 10. And this thing actually goes through all of the statues that have been, I guess, released at some point by Sideshow. And I'm going to be honest with you, I did not know that Sideshow had this many statues, enough to make a hard-bound book. And I don't know what period this thing is for, whether it's, a couple of years or something like that. But this is actually quite impressive. I honestly, again, statues isn't my thing. I have a desire to get one eventually, but I had no real clue as to how deep this thing actually was. I mean, look how thick this thing is. It's quite impressive. So I am going to continue to resist jumping into those statue waters, but I do appreciate this right here because I think it's really cool to allow me to see the spectrum of things that are out there. So next, I want to show you guys a couple of really cool books that showed up from IG Comic Store. I picked this thing up. This is the Absolute Carnage number 1. This is just a regular cover. There are actually 2 of them that I picked up. I have not even looked inside to see if these are the ones that maybe, Mark Bagley did that awesome sketch on in the back. So I may have to crack these open and take a look. Fingers crossed that maybe I picked one up. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't go all that deep into the Absolute Carnage variants. I did kind of get this one. This is a 1 in 25 featuring Venom. Just a really, really cool book. But I didn't go deep into the variants, partly because I went so heavy into the Powers of X. Powers of 10 and House of X variants in books. I ordered a lot of this stuff, including the House and Powers, well before the comics actually dropped, because I had a feeling that those were going to be really good. And because I went so heavy there, I didn't go as heavy into the Absolute Carnage. And to be honest with you, I wasn't terribly excited about Absolute Carnage until I read it and then realized how good it was. And now I'm kind of regretting the decision not to pick up a couple of extra. But with that said, I did pick this one up, another copy of this 1 in 100 of, I think this is Powers of 10. 1 in 100. And a lot of people have been asking about, well, a couple of people, I should say, have been asking about the differences between a Virgin and a trade dress. This is actually the Virgin. This is the one that allows you to see all of the artwork on the comic without what I'm about to show you, which is some of the trade dress stuff that identifies who the publisher is, the title of the comic, the UP symbol. This is basically the Virgin, and this would be an example of a trade dress. I think it's an awesome example of a trade dress. I think this is the 1 in 10. So definitely not a high number a ratio variant, but definitely a really cool book featuring Havoc, aka Alex Summers. When I saw this one, I had to have it because I just think that cover is really, really awesome. So definitely pleased to have these books in the collection. And then the last thing, well, second to last thing that I'm going to show you is another set of books that came in as an AOK for my buddy Tina. This book is one that when I go to one shop, they have a copy of it. And every time I'm there, I look at it, but I never buy it. It is Marvel graphic novel, The New Mutants, #4. First appearance of the New Mutants. This is an awesome, awesome book that I've wanted for quite some time. And it is honestly a gorgeous cover. Black covers are really tough. I actually looked at a copy of this at a con recently and the whole backside was scratched up. This one looks so clean. I am definitely pleased to have this book in the collection. And then I also was able to get this. This was sent over to me and I just dig this one. This is the X-Men, I think it's Champions Volume 2. Right there. This is actually a really cool book. It is a collection of interviews with some of the artists and creators that were involved with the X-Men. So there is a John Byrne interview. There's one on Chris Claremont. And then there's some others in there because it's a nice sized book. Several other interviews, photos, the whole 9 yards. This thing is really cool. I'm actually looking forward to reading this. I had to put this thing in a slab sleeve because it is that big. I had to drop it in something like that. And the opposite of big is this little ditty right here. This is actually a Silver Surfer ash can. It's a 75-cent ash can. And I don't know much about this. I'm not certain whether this is a comic that was actually distributed with a toy or something like that. I want to say that on the back side of it, it says 95. So I'm guessing that that's when it was released, 94, 95, somewhere along those timeline. But I'm not sure how or where it came from. There was actually no masthead information on the inside. So I'm assuming it wasn't distributed as a standalone comic. But again, I honestly don't know. If anyone out there recognizes this comic and can give me some insights and background on it, I would absolutely appreciate it. Silver Surfer ash can, 75 cents, I think, from like 1995. So there you go. The very last book that I'm going to show you is actually one of, I think now like 6. It is the only one that I have slabbed, but it is a comic that I talked about recently as a key that no one else was talking about. I told you guys in a previous video when I talked about that book that I actually had recently purchased some. Those books have come in and I probably purchased more than what I intended to purchase. I think there were 6 raw copies that came in, a couple of regular copies, 2 newsstands, and then I think there was even a Canadian variant and a Mark Jewelers variant. So went kind of heavy on those, and then I also snagged this right here. This is Avengers number 247. This is a pretty awesome book that ties together the Celestials, the Eternals, the Deviants, the Thanos, and could potentially have some impact on the MCU. Who knows? Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But I decided to go ahead and pick up this 9.8 because it was relatively expensive, and you know, it never hurts. So if you guys haven't seen the video on this, I definitely want to encourage you to go back and check the video out because I think it's a pretty good one. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. And certainly if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so at Reggie Collects on Instagram and RegieCollects@gmail.com. Take care.